dear students. So today we are going to start a new chapter, that is coal and petroleum. In this chapter basically we are going to study what is coal, what are the forms of coal. We are going to study what is petroleum, how is petroleum refining done, what are the products that we get from coal and petroleum, their uses and all these things. So let's get started. Yes. So first we have this activity in your textbook, that is activity 5.1. Make a list of various materials used by us in our daily life and classify them as natural and man-made. Okay, so we use many things in our daily life. Some things we get from natural sources and some are man-made. So basically I have written few items. You can write your own items. Okay, I am just giving you few examples. So those who have your textbooks, you can fill it up in your textbooks. Those who don't have your textbooks, you can write in your copies. Okay. So natural, the substances that are made from natural sources are curtains. Like curtains we make from cotton or we make from silk. Those are obtained from plants or animals. Clothes that we wear, furniture, of course we get from plants, isn't it? The wood. Pencil. Okay, pencil, basically the pencil, the part that is made from wood, that is natural. Matchbox, the matchsticks are made from wood. Eraser we get from rubber, that is obtained from the rubber plant. Man-made items are paints, battery, radio, cars, television. All these are man-made. Okay, we don't get it from plants or from animals. Okay, so you can write your own examples. I have just given you a few examples, right? Okay. So in the light of the availability of various resources in nature, natural resources can be broadly classified into two kinds. Okay, so basically here we are talking about natural resources which can be broadly subdivided or broadly classified into two kinds. Number one is inexhaustible natural resources. These resources are present in unlimited quantity in nature and are not likely to be exhausted by human activities. Okay, for example, sunlight, air. Now, some resources are there which are never to be exhausted. For example, sunlight. Okay, sunlight or air is never to be exhausted. It is always there. We can utilize it as much as we want and it will never be exhausted or never be finished. But some resources are there which are limited. For example, those are called exhaustible natural resource. The amount of these resources in nature is limited. They can be exhausted by human activities. Okay, for example, coal, okay, that we get from for example, that we get from the ground. Okay, for example, coal. Okay, for example, petroleum. For example, diesel. Okay, for example, any kind of minerals that we get from the soil. Okay, so these are exhaustible. That means at one point of time they will be over. They might be over. Okay, so these will come under exhaustible natural resources. Examples are forest, isn't it? Forests are exhaustible. Okay, if we keep on cutting forests, one day it will be completely over, right? Wildlife, if we keep killing the animals, then definitely their population will decrease. Minerals, coal, petroleum, natural gas, all these things, if we keep on using them, if we keep on exploiting them, then one day they will be exhausted or they will be finished. So that is why we have to be very careful while we are, using these minerals or using these resources. So in this chapter, we will learn about some exhaustible natural resources like coal, petroleum and natural gas. So here we are going to basically study about coal and petroleum and little bit about natural gas. Okay, these were formed from dead remains of living organisms, that is fossils. Okay, now fossil means what? Suppose a plant or animal dies. Okay, and what will happen? The dead body, if the dead body remains in the soil, then microorganisms will act on the dead body and it will break down into small pieces, right? So after it breaks down into small pieces, it will get mixed with the soil, okay? And once it gets mixed with the soil, together with the soil, they will form rocks, okay, below the earth's surface. Those are called fossils, okay? So these are called fossil fuels because coal, petroleum, natural gas, these are obtained from fossils. That means the remains of dead plants and animals which turns into rock after millions of years. Okay, so these are known as fossil fuels. Coal is one of the fuels used to cook food. So basically in cities we don't use coal for cooking food. Okay, we have LPG, right? But still coal is a very good source for cooking food also because it is a form of fuel. Earlier it was used in railway engines to produce steam to run the engine. I think you must have heard about steam engines. Okay, so earlier steam engines were used where coal was used as a fuel. When the coal will burn, the engine used to run. Okay, it was used as a fuel also. It is also used in thermal power plants to produce electricity. Because it is a fuel, so it can be used to produce electricity also. That means light energy and heat energy will be converted into electrical energy. Coal is also used as a fuel in various industries. Okay, in many industries also we can use because it is a form of fuel. Okay, so that was a small note about coal, how coal can be used as a fuel. So now let's come to the story of coal. That means how coal was formed. About 300 million years ago, the earth had dense forests in low-lying wetland areas. Okay, so 300 million years ago, if we go back, the earth was covered with dense forest. Everywhere there was forest in low-lying wetland areas. Okay, in low-lying areas, the earth was covered with forest. Due to natural processes like flooding, these forests got buried into the soil. Okay, so because of flooding, what happened to these forests? It was sunk into the soil or it was buried into the soil because it was covered with water everywhere. So the forests got buried into the soil. As more soil deposited over them, they were compressed. Okay, so they were sandwiched basically. Okay, so all the forests were under the soil. Above it was soil, so many layers of soil were above the forest layer, so definitely the forest layer was sandwiched in between the layers of soil. So when it is sandwiched, it was compressed, okay, and no air could enter. Okay, there was a complete anaerobic environment inside. The temperature rose as they sank deeper and deeper. We know that the temperature of the earth's crust is very high. So as they sank deeper and deeper, temperature was high because no air could circulate, so definitely temperature was high. So under high pressure and high temperature, these dead plants got slowly converted into coal. So due to extreme pressure and due to extreme temperature, the dead plants slowly got converted into rocks. Okay, and these rocks were called coal. As coal contains mainly carbon, the slow process of conversion of dead vegetation into coal is called carbonization. Very, very important. What is carbonization? Carbonization means when the dead plants and animals got slowly converted into coal, the entire process is called carbonization because coal basically contains carbon. Maximum percentage of coal is carbon. Okay, so carbon slowly, the dead plants were slowly converted into coal and the carbon content increased, and that process is called carbonization. Since it was formed from the remains of vegetation, coal is also known as a fossil fuel. Okay, so why it is called fossil fuel? Because it was formed from the remains of dead plants. Okay, so remember, anything formed from the remains of dead plants or dead animals is known as a fossil fuel. So since coal was also formed due to the remains of dead plants, it was also called a fossil fuel. So we'll continue with the explanation in the next slides. Thank you.